Yesterday when we roasted the turkey, I told you to keep your juice that comes off the turkey because it's liquid gold. That's because you use it to make gravy. It makes the best gravy. But first we need to make mashed potatoes to go with the gravy, and because the mashed potatoes take a little bit longer, I'm gonna start those first. Just start by peeling some potatoes. You can use whatever potatoes you want. I always like to use the yellow ones. Once you have your potatoes all peeled, just cut them into little chunks so they get softer faster. Then you need to rinse them off with some cold or warm water. After you have them rinsed off, add water up till it just comes to the top of the potatoes, and then put it on the stove to bring it to a boil. And yes, I have a how to make mashed potatoes in my cookbook. Making that turkey gravy is actually really easy. I always just use my pan gravy recipe, and then I use the turkey juice instead of beef broth. So you start with some butter. We need to make a roux or whatever it's called. We always just call it melting butter together with flour. Yes, here we go again with our Kerrygold butter. They better sponsor me one of these times, or I might have to switch. Once your butter is completely melted, add your flour in there. You also want to add your salt and seasonings first. I have some white pepper. You can use black pepper. That black pepper gives me a headache, so I always just use white pepper. And then some salt. I'm using pink Himalayan salt. We also use garlic powder for a little bit of flavor, although your turkey juice is going to have a lot of flavor. And just whisk that into your butter. And we're going to keep whisking this, and it's going to start turning a little toasted brown. That's how we want it. We don't want to taste that flour. Once that just starts to look golden toasted brown, you don't want to let it get too brown or it's going to taste burnt. We're going to start adding our turkey juice. Just add a little bit at a time. You add some, you stir it in, it's going to get really thick. You add some more, stir that in as well, and gradually keep adding it, and it will come to a boil and turn nice and bubbly like gravy should be. After you've added all of your broth and the gravy starts bubbling, it's done, and you have a beautiful turkey gravy. The gravy's done now. The potatoes are tender, so I'm going to go mash the potatoes. These potatoes are tender, but I have not dumped the water off, and you have to do that before you mash them. At home, whenever we made pan gravy and mashed potatoes, we always kept some of the potato water and used it to make our gravy. Now you just go in and mash them before you add anything. You want to make sure they're all mashed. As soon as you have these all mashed, you're ready to add your stuff, and I always add butter. That is a non-negotiable. Then we also add salt, and also just a little reminder, if you're making your gravy with the turkey juice, you might want to taste the turkey juice and make sure it's not too salty, because if it is, don't add any extra salt to your gravy. This is definitely an optional ingredient, but if you want your mashed potatoes to be really creamy, just add a little bit of cream cheese. Then we can use milk or cream. I'm using whole milk cream, but obviously make them creamier, and just mash that until it has whatever consistency you like your mashed potatoes to have. You can also add garlic powder for some extra flavor. Your mashed potatoes should look something like this. I love when they're this creamy. Now I'm going to serve some out. You just give yourself a good plop. This reminds me of something when I was a little girl. I think I was 3 or 4 years old. I was sitting at the lunch table. We had mashed potatoes and gravy for lunch. Mom had set my plate in front of me with everything on it, and I had not eaten any of it out, and I was asking for bread with jam on it, and she's like, "You haven't touched anything on your plate. Eat some of that first before you get bread." And I just took my knife and stuck it in there and said, "Now I have." I got slapped over the mouth. I was a little big shot when I was a kid. Now we're just going to drizzle some gravy over there. I always like to make a little hole in my mashed potatoes so the gravy can go in there and make a pond. That was our favorite activity as little kids, was to make our ponds so Mom could fill it up with gravy. Let's take a bite and see if it's as good as it always is. I never thought I'd be telling people how to make mashed potatoes because it is so easy, but this is how to do it. They are so delicious. And please, for heaven's sake, do not use instant mashed potatoes. That is the most atrocious thing I have ever tasted when it comes to cooking in the kitchen. It is just disgusting. If you want instructions on the gravy and the mashed potatoes, they're both in my cookbook. Right now the print one is out of stock, but the digital one, that is the exact digital version of my printed one, is 70% off on my website, socialsbylavina.com, over here on my profile. Depending what platform you're on, it might be in the caption of this video. If you don't want to click any of those links, you can just go to your browser app, open a new tab, and type in socialsbylavina.com, and my website will just open in your browser, and you don't have to have a third-party app. I hope you guys make this instead of instant mashed potatoes and canned gravy for Thanksgiving. Enjoy!